The dense, vibrant jungle stretched endlessly before Leo. The young lion cub. The canopy of trees was thick with rich green leaves, their branches intertwining to create a roof that filtered the sunlight into soft, scattered rays. Beneath the trees, the forest floor was alive with the hum of insects and the rustle of small creatures darting through the underbrush. In the distance, the clear sound of running water echoed through the jungle, the streams weaving their way through the landscape like veins of life, feeding the earth and sustaining the creatures that called this place home. It was the rainy season, and the jungle was in full bloom. The air was thick with the earthy scent of fresh rain and wet soil. Everywhere Leo looked, there was life. Bright flowers bloomed in bursts of color. The trees stood tall and proud. And the rivers, swollen with water, rushed with a renewed force. The jungle was alive, and it was calling to him. Leo, though still young and somewhat inexperienced, was always eager for adventure. He had grown up within the protection of his pride, learning the ways of the lions and the art of survival from his mother, Sarai. But his curiosity often got the best of him. And today was no different. The jungle beckoned, and despite the warnings from his elders, Leo had slipped away from the safety of his pride's territory to explore the world beyond. He wandered through the thick foliage, his small paws making soft sounds as he padded over the wet ground. He marveled at the towering trees, the vivid flowers, and the strange, exotic birds that flitted overhead. His golden fur, still young and soft, was damp with the mist that hung in the air. But Leo hardly noticed. The jungle was full of wonders, and each step he took seemed to reveal something new and exciting. But as Leo ventured deeper into the jungle, he had no idea that he was stepping into a part of the forest that was far from welcoming. Unbeknownst to him, he was approaching a dangerous territory, a place where few creatures dared to venture, especially on their own. Near a large, muddy watering hole, the air was thick with tension. This was the domain of Hippo, the massive male hippopotamus who lived in the depths of the swampy waters. Hippo was a formidable creature, huge and heavy, with tusks that could slice through the thickest brush and jaws strong enough to crush bone. Though he spent most of his time submerged in the cool water, Hippo was known for his volatile temper. When provoked or threatened, he would become a terrifying force, willing to fight anything that came too close. As Leo unknowingly approached the water's edge, his attention captured by the sparkle of the sunlight on the water's surface. Hippo lay submerged beneath the murky water, his large, round eyes barely visible above the surface. The sound of Leo's small paws on the ground did not reach his ears at first. But the subtle ripples in the water stirred him from his half-asleep state. Suddenly, Leo's bright eyes caught a flicker of movement near the water. Curious, he padded closer, his heart racing with excitement. The cool water shimmered as it lapped at the edges of the pool. And Leo couldn't resist the urge to get closer. He had heard about Hippo from the older lions. His fearsome reputation was well known, but Leo, young and naive, thought nothing of it. He was a lion cub, after all, and nothing could harm him. Or so he believed. The moment Leo stepped closer to the water, the tension in the air thickened. Hippo's massive nostrils flared as he caught the scent of the young lion, his instincts immediately sending him into defensive mode. For a brief moment, the hippopotamus remained still, watching the curious cub approach. But then, the water rippled violently, and with a sudden splash, Hippo emerged from the depths, his massive body rising from the water like a terrifying shadow. Leo froze in place, his wide eyes locked on the enormous creature now looming before him. The sight of Hippo's massive, bulky frame, covered in mud and water, made the young cub's heart race. His golden fur stood on end as he instinctively took a step back. But Hippo, perceiving the movement as a threat, snorted loudly, a warning that sent a ripple of panic through Leo's chest. Hippo's tusks gleamed in the dim light. His eyes narrowed with fury. He let out a deep, rumbling growl that echoed through the jungle. To Leo, it felt like the earth itself was trembling beneath his feet. The lion cub's mind raced. He had heard stories about the power of a hippo, how they could crush entire boats with their jaws, how their aggression was unmatched. His instinct told him to turn and run, but his feet felt frozen to the ground, paralyzed by fear. Before Leo could react, a voice suddenly rang out from behind him, cutting through the tension. "Get away from there, Leo!" The voice was deep and powerful, filled with urgency. Leo's head snapped around, his heart leaping at the familiar sound. It was Bongo, the mighty gorilla who lived deeper in the jungle. Bongo, known for his incredible strength and intelligence, was a protector of the jungle and a wise figure in the animal kingdom. Leo had always admired Bongo from afar, but this was the first time he had heard the gorilla's voice filled with such concern. Bongo, with his powerful frame and dark, muscular arms, moved quickly through the trees, his presence like a wave of calm amidst the chaos. With each stride, he closed the distance between himself and Leo, his eyes never leaving the enraged hippo. "Move, Leo, now!" Bongo barked, his voice sharp as he reached the cub's side. Leo's legs finally found the strength to move, and without a second thought, he darted toward the safety of the trees, his heart pounding in his chest. His instincts screamed at him to run faster, but even as he moved, he couldn't help but glance back at Bongo, who stood tall between him and the enraged hippo. Bongo, though much smaller than the hippo, wasn't intimidated. He bared his teeth and let out a growl, showing the strength and power that had earned him his reputation as one of the jungle's most respected creatures. His large, powerful hands gripped a nearby branch, using it as a makeshift weapon to keep the furious hippo at bay. "Stay back," Bongo commanded, his voice low and powerful. "You don't want to do this." Hippo, still snorting in rage, took a step forward, his massive frame blocking the water's edge. But as he did, Bongo raised the branch high and slammed it into the ground with a loud crack, sending a shock wave of energy through the jungle. The sheer force of the gorilla's action made Hippo pause, his wild eyes narrowing as he reconsidered his next move. "Go, Leo," Bongo growled, not taking his eyes off the hippo. Get to safety, now. Leo, his legs still trembling from the close call, quickly obeyed. He sprinted through the dense foliage, his heart pounding in his chest. The sounds of the confrontation behind him were fading. But his mind raced. He had come so close to danger. So close to making a fatal mistake. He had underestimated the jungle and the creatures that lived within it. Once he was a safe distance away, Leo collapsed onto the soft ground, his breath heavy as he tried to regain his composure. His mind still buzzed with the memory of Hippo's terrifying presence. He had nearly paid the price for his curiosity. A few moments later, Bongo arrived, his large form stepping lightly through the trees. His expression was serious, but there was a hint of concern in his eyes as he looked at Leo. "That was too close, young one," Bongo said, his deep voice rumbling. "The jungle is full of dangers. And you must be careful. Not every creature you meet will be as understanding as the lions in your pride. You've learned a valuable lesson today." Leo nodded, his golden fur still damp with sweat. I didn't know how dangerous Hippo could be," he said, his voice quiet with humility. "I was just curious. I didn't mean any harm." Bongo smiled, his eyes softening. "Curiosity is a natural thing, Leo, but it's important to remember that curiosity must be balanced with respect. The jungle is a beautiful place, full of wonders, but it's also a place of great power. Respect that power, and you will learn to live in harmony with it." Leo looked up at the mighty gorilla, his heart filled with gratitude. He had learned much in a short amount of time. About danger, about courage, and about the importance of understanding the jungle and its creatures. He had been saved by Bongo's strength and wisdom, and he knew that he would never forget this day. "Thank you, Bongo," Leo said sincerely. "I won't forget what you've taught me." Bongo nodded, a gentle smile spreading across his face. "Good. Now, let's get you back to your pride before you get into any more trouble." With that, the two of them made their way back through the jungle. Bongo's large, steady steps guiding the young lion cub towards safety. The jungle, with all its beauty and danger, had taught Leo a valuable lesson, one that he would carry with him for the rest of his life. And as he walked beside Bongo, Leo knew that the jungle was full of wonders, but also full of lessons to be learned. And this was only the beginning of his journey. The warm sun hung low over the jungle, casting long, dappled shadows on the ground as Leo, the young lion cub, frolicked near the edge of the watering hole. The cool water lapped gently at the shore, its surface shimmering with the light of the setting sun. Leo's golden fur shone in the sunlight as he tumbled and rolled through the grass, his tiny paws digging into the soft earth. It was a rare moment of peace in the jungle, a brief reprieve from the dangers and lessons of the wild. Leo had wandered far from the safety of his pride's territory, his curiosity driving him deeper into the jungle. He had heard the older lions talk about the dangers of the jungle. But to Leo, it was just another grand adventure. He had always been a little impulsive, a little too eager to explore the world around him. His mischief often got the best of him. But today, it seemed that his playfulness would lead him into a much more serious situation. The peaceful serenity of the moment was shattered when Leo heard a deep, rumbling sound coming from behind him. He froze, his body tensing instinctively. The sound was like nothing he had ever heard before, deep, guttural, and full of menace. His golden eyes widened in alarm as the ground seemed to tremble beneath him. Before Leo could react, a massive shadow loomed over him. The great, hulking form of a hippopotamus appeared from behind a cluster of trees, its eyes glowing with rage. Hippo, the terrifying creature who lived near the watering hole, had caught sight of Leo. The young lion cub hadn't noticed it at first, too caught up in his playful exploration. But now, the hippo's massive bulk and piercing glare were fixed on him with unyielding focus. Leo's heart pounded in his chest. The hippopotamus was a force of nature, a creature capable of devastating strength and fury. He had heard stories from his elders about how hippos could charge at incredible speeds, their powerful jaws capable of crushing bones with ease. But now, as the massive creature's tusks gleamed in the fading light, Leo's playful innocence quickly turned to fear. He had no time to think, no time to escape. With a sudden and terrifying charge, the hippo surged forward. Its massive legs thudded against the ground with terrifying force as it propelled its huge body toward Leo. The ground shook beneath the weight of its advance, and Leo's instincts kicked in. He tried to scramble to his feet, but his legs felt heavy, his body slow with shock. The hippo's eyes locked onto him, its mouth wide as it bared its dangerous tusks. Leo didn't have time to run. In the blink of an eye, the hippo was upon him, its massive body crashing into him with the force of a storm. Leo was thrown sideways by the impact, his small body no match for the hippo's raw power. The young lion cub was sent hurtling through the air, tumbling helplessly toward a nearby tree. He slammed into the trunk with a sickening thud, his head spinning from the impact. Pain shot through his body as he collapsed to the ground, dazed and unable to move. The hippo, not content with just one attack, let out an earth-shaking roar. Its dark eyes glinted with fury as it turned back toward the fallen lion cub. Leo, lying on the ground, felt a cold wave of fear wash over him. His head throbbed from the collision, and his limbs felt heavy and unresponsive. He struggled to rise, but his body betrayed him, refusing to cooperate. The hippo was coming closer, its massive frame blocking out the sky. Leo's breath came in short, shallow gasps as the hippo loomed over him, its enormous jaws opening wide, ready to strike. Leo could do nothing but lie there, helpless, as the creature prepared to end him with one crushing bite. The sheer size and power of the hippo were overwhelming, and the young lion cub was no match for it. In that moment, Leo knew he was in grave danger. His young heart raced as he realized that, despite his natural courage and strength, he was too small and too inexperienced to face such a formidable opponent. The jungle, which had seemed so full of wonder and excitement, now felt like a cruel, unforgiving place. He was just a cub, and this was the harsh reality of the wild. The hippo's eyes flashed with unrelenting anger as it took another step toward Leo. Its massive body blocked out the light, casting a shadow over the helpless lion cub. It was moments away from delivering the final blow when, suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the jungle. "Leave him alone." The voice was powerful and commanding, cutting through the tension like a blade. The hippo hesitated, its ears flicking back at the sound of the voice. Leo's heart skipped a beat. He recognized the voice. It was Bongo, the mighty gorilla who lived deeper in the jungle. Leo had often heard stories of Bongo's strength and wisdom, but he had never imagined the gorilla would come to his aid like this. Without warning, Bongo emerged from the thick underbrush, his large, muscular frame moving with surprising speed. His dark eyes locked onto the hippo, and his voice rang out again. "You will not harm him, Hippo." The hippo, still standing over Leo, snorted in frustration and turned to face Bongo. The two powerful creatures locked eyes, each sizing up the other. For a moment, the jungle was eerily silent, the tension hanging in the air like a storm waiting to break. Bongo, undeterred by the hippo's size, stepped forward, his chest puffing out with authority. "This is not your territory, Hippo. This is the jungle, and here, we protect one another. Leave him be." The hippo let out a low, guttural growl, its body tensing as it considered Bongo's words. It wasn't often that it encountered creatures who dared to stand up to it. But Bongo, with his vast strength and unwavering courage, was not intimidated. He stood his ground, his eyes locked onto the hippo's, refusing to back down. For a moment, it seemed as if the two would clash, each ready to assert their dominance. But then, with a final snort of frustration, the hippo turned away. It wasn't worth the fight. The massive creature gave Leo one last glare before it lumbered back toward the water, disappearing into the murky depths of the watering hole. Leo, still lying on the ground, let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. His body ached with pain, but relief washed over him as the immediate threat passed. He could feel his strength returning, though it was slow, and he struggled to sit up. His head swam, and the world around him felt distant and blurry. Bongo moved quickly to Leo's side, his massive hands gently lifting the young cub to his feet. "Are you all right, Leo?" Bongo's voice was soft but filled with concern as he looked the young lion over, his eyes scanning for any sign of serious injury. Leo winced, rubbing his head where he had collided with the tree. "I think so. I'm just shaken," he admitted, his voice unsteady. I didn't know how dangerous Hippo was." Bongo nodded, his expression understanding. "It's easy to forget how powerful some of the jungle's creatures are when you're young. But you've learned a valuable lesson today, Leo. The jungle is full of beauty, but it is also full of dangers. You must respect it, not just its beauty but also its power." Leo, still recovering from the shock, nodded slowly. "I'll be more careful from now on." Bongo smiled, his eyes softening. "Good. The jungle is a place where you will always find both challenges and allies. And you're lucky today that you had one of those allies here when you needed it." Leo looked up at the gorilla, his gratitude shining through his weary expression. "Thank you, Bongo. I don't know what I would have done without you." Bongo chuckled softly, his deep voice rumbling. "That's what we do for each other in the jungle, Leo. We protect one another." As the two of them watched the distant hippo retreat, the lesson was clear. Leo had been given a glimpse into the raw power of the jungle, a reminder that he had much to learn about survival and respect. But with the strength of allies like Bongo, Leo knew that he would grow into a lion worthy of the jungle's challenges. And as Bongo gently guided Leo back towards safer ground, the young lion cub felt a new sense of humility settle within him. The jungle was a place of strength, and he would have to earn his place within it, one lesson at a time. Bongo, the mighty gorilla, had been wandering through the dense jungle, his powerful arms moving silently through the thick underbrush as he searched for food. His large, muscular body moved effortlessly through the trees, and his sharp eyes scanned the surroundings for anything unusual. As the jungle's protector, he knew the land better than most, and he had always been able to navigate its complexities with ease. But today, as Bongo moved deeper into the jungle, something unusual caught his attention. The air was filled with an unsettling sound, something out of place. A deep, guttural growl echoed through the trees, followed by the unmistakable sound of a young creature in distress. "Leo!" Bongo's sharp ears twitched at the sound. His heart sank. He knew that sound all too well, the frantic, desperate calls of someone in danger. He paused for a moment, the weight of his instincts pulling him toward the source of the noise. It wasn't just the growls of the jungle he heard now, it was Leo, the young lion cub, calling out for help. Without hesitation, Bongo's powerful limbs carried him forward, moving swiftly through the trees. He was no stranger to danger. His mind was calm, focused, as he approached the clearing where the sounds were coming from. The further he went, the more he could hear the terrifying sounds of Hippo's angry roars, mixed with the young cub's desperate cries. Bongo knew that Hippo, though usually a solitary creature, was not to be trifled with. The hippopotamus was massive, with a brute strength that could crush nearly anything in its path. The hippo's aggression had been known to drive it into a violent frenzy, especially when it felt threatened. And now, Bongo understood. It was targeting Leo. The gorilla's heart raced, but his mind remained sharp. Bongo wasn't just strong. He was intelligent. And he knew that brute force alone wouldn't help in this situation. Leo, small and inexperienced, had wandered too far, and now the young cub was at the mercy of a creature far stronger than him. Bongo had to act, and quickly. Bongo lowered his body, careful to remain hidden in the underbrush. His sharp eyes peeked through the leaves, studying the scene before him. There, not far from the edge of the watering hole, Leo was lying on the ground, his small body crumpled and dazed. The massive hippo loomed over him, its tusks gleaming dangerously. The hippo's furious growls rumbled through the jungle as it prepared to strike again. Bongo felt his blood run cold, but he remained calm. He knew that charging in head first would be a death sentence for Leo and himself. The hippo was too strong, too unpredictable. He needed to think. Bongo surveyed the surroundings, his eyes moving quickly over the area. There was a large tree nearby, its branches high enough to give him a good vantage point. Bongo made his decision. He moved silently, like a shadow, through the dense foliage, until he reached the base of the tree. Using his powerful legs, he leapt upward, his arms gripping the thick branches as he swung himself effortlessly into the canopy. From his position in the tree, Bongo had a perfect view of the clearing below. He could see Leo struggling on the ground, trying to move, but clearly in no condition to escape. The hippo, its attention fixed on the cub, was preparing for its next brutal charge. Bongo's mind raced as he looked for a way to turn the tide in Leo's favor. He needed to distract the hippo, draw its attention away from Leo, and buy the young cub the time he desperately needed to escape. With a deep breath, Bongo began to formulate a plan. Using his sharp eyes, Bongo spotted several large branches hanging from nearby trees. He reached down with one arm and grabbed the thickest one he could find. The weight of the branch was considerable, but Bongo's muscular arms easily supported it. He lifted it with one fluid motion and positioned himself, carefully aiming at the hippo below. Then, with all his might, Bongo hurled the branch toward the hippo. The massive branch flew through the air with a crash, landing just a few feet away from the hippo. The sound of the impact was deafening, and the startled hippo jerked its massive head around, its angry eyes scanning the area for the source of the noise. For a brief moment, the hippo's attention shifted away from Leo, and Bongo could see the young cub attempt to move. His legs shaky but his determination clear. Bongo wasn't done yet. He quickly grabbed another branch, this one even larger than the last, and repeated the process. This time, he threw the branch with even greater force, the noise reverberating through the jungle like thunder. The hippo, now visibly confused and agitated, turned its massive body toward the noise, its attention fully diverted. In that crucial moment, Leo, seizing the opportunity, scrambled to his feet. His small body was unsteady, but adrenaline surged through him as he took a few shaky steps away from the hippo. He darted toward the safety of the nearby trees, his heart pounding as he moved as fast as he could. Bongo watched carefully, keeping his body low in the tree to remain hidden. He could see Leo moving away from the danger, his small figure slipping through the underbrush as the hippo continued to search for the source of the noise. Bongo's heart raced, but he knew that the young lion cub was safe, for now. The hippo, still confused, was slowly retreating back toward the water, its massive frame disappearing into the depths. The moment seemed to stretch on forever. But slowly, the sounds of the hippo's growls faded, replaced by the soft rustling of the jungle. Leo, though still shaken, had managed to escape the immediate danger. Bongo's chest heaved with relief as he watched the cub reach the safety of the trees. As the jungle calmed, Bongo descended from the tree, his large feet landing silently on the forest floor. He moved quickly to where Leo had stopped, still catching his breath from the terrifying encounter. "Leo," Bongo said gently, his deep voice soft but filled with authority. "Are you all right?" Leo, panting heavily, turned to face the gorilla. His golden fur was matted with dirt, and his eyes were wide with the shock of the encounter. But he was alive. I think so, Leo stammered, still trying to calm his racing heart. I didn't know it would be so dangerous. I thought I could handle it. Bongo smiled softly, his eyes filled with understanding. The jungle is full of dangers, Leo, and while bravery is important, so is wisdom. It's not always about strength. It's about knowing when to fight and when to step back and think. Today, you learned that. Leo nodded, still a bit shaken but grateful. Thank you, Bongo. I don't know what I would have done without you. Bongo's expression softened, and he placed a large, comforting hand on Leo's shoulder. Remember, Leo, the jungle is a place of balance. We all have a role to play, and we must respect the power of the creatures we share it with. Even Hippo has his place here, though he's not someone to be taken lightly. Leo absorbed the wisdom in Bongo's words, his young mind processing the lesson. I'll be more careful from now on, he promised, his voice filled with newfound respect for the jungle and its inhabitants. Bongo nodded approvingly. Good. Now, let's get you back to your pride. You've learned a valuable lesson today. But there are many more to come. With that, the two of them walked together through the jungle. Bongo's massive presence offering comfort and protection as they made their way back to safety. Leo, though still shaken from the encounter, knew that he had learned something important. And with Bongo by his side, he felt more prepared for whatever challenges the jungle might throw at him next. The lesson of the day would stay with him, a reminder that in the jungle, it wasn't just about strength, it was about wisdom, respect, and knowing when to act. The jungle had gone eerily quiet after Bongo's distraction with the branches. But the threat was far from over. Leo, though out of immediate danger, was still shaky, his heart racing from the terrifying encounter. His eyes were wide, still processing what had just occurred. But even as he caught his breath, the air around them seemed to grow heavier with tension. Bongo's sharp ears twitched. The deep, guttural growl of the hippo, full of rage and frustration, echoed once again through the jungle. The hippo, enraged by the unexpected attack and Bongo's interference, was no longer retreating. Instead, it was charging back toward them, its massive form surging through the dense underbrush with terrifying speed. Bongo's eyes narrowed, his body tensing. He had only moments to act. He wasn't just fighting for his own safety now. He was fighting for Leo's life. The young lion cub, though quick, had no chance against the hippo's sheer size and strength. Bongo's mind raced, searching for a strategy. He knew that brute force alone wouldn't save them. He had to outwit the hippo. That was the only way. With a quick glance at Leo, who was still trying to steady his breathing and regain his bearings, Bongo made his move. He ducked low to the ground, his large, muscular body moving silently through the underbrush. His eyes were locked on the hippo, and he knew that his distraction had worked once. But it would need to work again. He needed to keep the hippo's focus on him, away from the vulnerable cub. The hippo's beady eyes locked onto Bongo, and with a snarl, it charged forward once again, its enormous bulk shaking the ground beneath them. Bongo leapt into action, his strong legs propelling him upward into the trees. He moved with incredible speed, using his powerful arms to swing effortlessly between the branches. The hippo, furious and confused, followed the movement with its eyes. But it was too slow to react. Bongo moved like a shadow, darting from tree to tree, making no sound but the occasional creaking of the branches under his weight. The hippo, clearly agitated, continued to charge toward where Bongo had been. But Bongo was already several branches away, just out of reach. With every movement, Bongo made sure to keep the hippo's attention fixated on him. The giant animal, its eyes wide with fury, swung its head from side to side, snorting and stomping in frustration. It was confused, uncertain of where the threat was coming from. And that was exactly what Bongo wanted. The plan was working. The hippo's rage blinded it to the bigger picture. It was becoming more and more disoriented, its once precise movements now erratic. Bongo took advantage of the hippo's confusion, moving with grace and agility, staying high in the trees and using the jungle's natural camouflage to his advantage. He never stopped making noise, sending loud cracks through the branches, throwing rocks and other debris from above to keep the hippo distracted. Meanwhile, Leo, still shaken but recovering, watched in awe from a distance. He had never seen Bongo move with such speed and precision. The gorilla was a force to be reckoned with. But more than that, he was a master of strategy, outwitting the much larger creature by using his surroundings to his advantage. Leo, despite his fear, couldn't help but admire Bongo's resourcefulness. But the hippo, too, was relentless. After several moments of confusion, it finally began to catch on. Its head snapped toward the trees, its keen instincts zeroing in on the source of the noise. With a roar, the hippo charged again, its enormous body crashing into the base of the tree where Bongo had been a moment before. The impact sent a shock wave through the jungle, and Bongo had to leap away just in time to avoid being crushed beneath the hippo's massive bulk. The hippo, now focused solely on Bongo, began to press forward, determined to rid itself of the nuisance once and for all. Bongo's mind raced as he searched for a way to take control of the situation. There was no more time for clever distractions. He had to act. In a flash of movement, Bongo dropped from the trees, his body moving in a fluid arc through the air. He landed just behind the hippo, using its blind spot to his advantage. With all his strength, Bongo surged forward, his powerful hands gripping the hippo's massive back. The hippo, startled by the sudden attack, bellowed in fury, its head swinging wildly as it tried to shake off the gorilla. Bongo, however, had the upper hand. Using his strength and agility, he clung to the hippo's back, pulling with all his might. He wasn't trying to overpower the hippo, he was trying to unbalance it, to throw it off its feet. The hippo's massive body wavered, its legs sliding out from beneath it as Bongo's grip tightened. With one final push, Bongo used the momentum to throw the hippo off balance. The hippo, caught off guard, stumbled and crashed to the ground with a deafening thud, its massive body shaking the earth as it fell. The jungle seemed to hold its breath as the hippo struggled to regain its footing. Its furious eyes wide with confusion and frustration. Bongo didn't hesitate. He sprang into action, moving swiftly toward Leo, who had been watching the battle unfold with wide eyes. The cub was still too close to the hippo's path, and Bongo knew he had no time to waste. Without thinking, Bongo grabbed Leo by the scruff of his neck and pulled him out of harm's way, dragging the young lion towards safety. Leo, still dazed from the earlier impact, blinked in surprise but didn't resist. The strength of Bongo's grip was reassuring, and he could feel the gorilla's calm determination guiding him away from the danger. They moved quickly, weaving through the thick jungle undergrowth as Bongo kept a protective arm around Leo, making sure he stayed out of the hippo's line of sight. Behind them, the hippo was struggling to get back up, its massive legs kicking the ground as it tried to regain its footing. But it was disoriented, its anger clouding its judgment. The hippo's movements were slow and clumsy now, and Bongo knew that it wouldn't be long before it gave up the fight and retreated into the water, where it felt safest. With a final, powerful push, Bongo pulled Leo into the cover of a large tree, where they were hidden from the hippo's view. The two of them crouched low, their breaths heavy in the quiet aftermath of the battle. Leo's heart was still racing, but he felt a sense of safety wash over him as he looked up at Bongo. "Are you okay?" Bongo asked, his deep voice soft but filled with concern as he gazed down at the young lion. Leo nodded shakily. "I think so. Thanks to you." Bongo smiled gently. "It's not over yet, Leo. We still need to be cautious. Hippo will likely retreat for now, but we can't let our guard down just yet." Leo, still shaken, looked up at Bongo with wide eyes. "You were amazing, Bongo. I didn't know what to do. I thought I was done for." Bongo's expression softened. "Sometimes, we all feel that way, Leo, but remember this. Even in the face of danger, you don't have to fight alone. The jungle is full of allies, and it's important to lean on them when you need help." Leo took a deep breath, nodding. He had learned a valuable lesson today, not just about strength, but about the importance of strategy, patience, and, above all, the value of teamwork. With Bongo's guidance, he had survived an encounter that could have easily ended in disaster. The jungle around them began to quiet down again, the distant sound of the hippo retreating into the waters barely audible. Leo, still recovering from the shock, sat down on the soft earth, his body sore but grateful. "Thank you, Bongo," Leo said quietly, his voice filled with respect. "I'll never forget what you did for me." Bongo placed a large hand on the young cub's shoulder, his voice gentle. "You're welcome, Leo. Now let's get you back to the pride. They'll be waiting, and we have much to talk about." As they made their way back through the jungle, Leo felt a new sense of understanding. The jungle, though full of danger, was also full of opportunities to learn and grow. And with Bongo by his side, Leo knew he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The jungle was still, the air heavy with the aftermath of the battle. Leo, his small body still trembling from the terror of the encounter, looked up at Bongo with a mixture of awe and gratitude. His heart was still racing, but the fear that had gripped him moments ago had begun to fade. He had never felt such a deep sense of relief, nor had he ever been so thankful for the presence of another creature. Bongo, the mighty gorilla who had saved his life, stood tall beside him, his massive frame, once looming and intimidating, now seemed like a protective shield around Leo. His deep brown eyes, full of wisdom and strength, softened as he looked down at the young cub. There was no judgment in his gaze, no hint of superiority, only a quiet understanding. Bongo had not only used his strength to defeat the hippo, but he had also guided Leo through the chaos, giving him a chance to survive. "Thank you, Bongo," Leo whispered, his voice still shaken, but filled with an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been there." Bongo smiled gently, his large hand reaching down to rest on Leo's shoulder. The gorilla's touch was warm, reassuring, and firm. "You're welcome, Leo," he said, his voice low and steady. "But remember, you don't have to face the jungle's challenges alone. No one should fight alone in this wild place. We protect each other, no matter what." Leo nodded slowly, the weight of Bongo's words sinking deep into his heart. He had learned so much in such a short time. The jungle, once a place of boundless curiosity and excitement, had shown its darker side today. But it had also shown him the true meaning of community, of partnership, and of strength in unity. It wasn't just about the power of the individual, but the power of standing together. For a moment, the two of them stood in silence, the sounds of the jungle around them beginning to settle as the hippo, now defeated, retreated back into the safety of the water. The massive creature had not been vanquished entirely, but it had been put in its place, retreating to its domain, no longer a threat to the jungle's inhabitants. The hippo's retreat was a victory of strategy and strength. But more importantly, it was a victory of understanding. The jungle was full of creatures, each with their own power, their own place, but it was also a place where alliances were formed, where respect was earned, and where kindness could grow even in the most unlikely of places. Bongo turned to Leo, his expression softening. "It's time to head back," he said. "The pride will be waiting for you. And we've had enough adventure for one day. Don't you think?" Leo, though still shaken, managed a small smile. He looked up at Bongo, his heart swelling with respect and admiration for the wise gorilla who had just saved him. "Yeah, I think it's time," Leo agreed, his voice steadier now. "But I won't forget what you did for me, Bongo, I promise." The two of them began to make their way back through the jungle, moving with purpose but at a slower pace. Leo walked a little more confidently now, his steps firmer, though the memory of the hippo's charge still lingered in his mind. The relief of Bongo's intervention had given him the strength to keep moving forward. As they walked, the soft light of the setting sun filtered through the trees, casting golden beams across the jungle floor. The air was cool now, the heat of the day fading with the dusk. The rustling of leaves and the distant calls of birds filled the quiet. But there was an underlying peace that seemed to settle over the land. It was a peace that came from knowing that, despite the dangers of the jungle, there was always help to be found when needed, and that no one was ever truly alone. Bongo moved with the grace of a creature in tune with the world around him. His large body seemed to blend seamlessly into the jungle, a part of the rhythm of life that flowed through the trees and rivers. Leo, still small and inexperienced, followed closely behind, his thoughts swirling. He couldn't help but think about the lessons he had learned today, the lesson of respecting the power of the jungle, the lesson of thinking before acting, and most importantly, the lesson of not facing the dangers of the wild alone. As they neared the edge of the jungle, Leo could see the familiar sight of his pride in the distance. The golden forms of the lions lounging peacefully beneath the shade of a large tree. They had no idea of the danger he had faced, nor of the incredible journey he had just experienced. But Leo felt different now. The lion cub who had left the safety of the pride was not the same cub who was returning. Bongo slowed his pace as they reached the clearing. "Your pride is waiting," he said, his deep voice full of quiet wisdom. "They will be glad to see you. But remember, the jungle is a place of balance. You must always respect that balance, or it will remind you in ways you may not expect." Leo nodded, the weight of Bongo's words settling into his heart. He had come to understand that the jungle was not just a place of excitement and adventure, it was a living, breathing force, a place where every creature had a role to play. And in that world, respect and unity were not just values to live by, they were the foundation of survival. As Leo approached the pride, Sarai, his mother, looked up and smiled, her golden eyes soft with concern. She could see the weariness in her son's posture, the faint tremor in his steps. But she said nothing. Instead, she opened her arms to him, and Leo rushed forward, feeling the comfort of his mother's embrace. He had never realized how much he had missed the warmth and safety of his pride until now. Sarai looked down at Leo, her eyes searching his face. "You're safe," she said softly, her voice full of love. "I'm glad to see you home, my son." Leo looked up at her, his eyes filled with gratitude. He opened his mouth to speak but found that words could not quite express everything he had learned today. He had faced danger, but he had also learned the true meaning of strength, of unity, and of friendship, and he knew, deep in his heart, that these lessons would guide him for the rest of his life. As Leo settled down beside his mother, Bongo, standing just outside the circle of the pride, turned to leave. He had fulfilled his role, but his presence was always a silent reminder of the jungle's power and the strength that came from working together. As Bongo melted into the shadows of the jungle, his work for the day done, the jungle seemed to exhale a sigh of contentment. The balance had been restored. The sun finally dipped below the horizon, casting a warm, orange glow over the jungle. The animals settled in for the night, the sounds of the day giving way to the quiet hum of nocturnal creatures. Leo lay beside his pride, feeling the weight of the day's events settle into his bones. But there was no fear now. No uncertainty. He was not alone. As the jungle embraced the night, Leo drifted into a peaceful sleep. The lessons of the day still fresh in his mind. The jungle was vast, wild, and full of dangers, but it was also full of allies, creatures who would stand together, protect each other, and face the challenges ahead. No matter what, and as long as that bond remained, the jungle would always be a place of balance, harmony, and strength. In the heart of the jungle, Leo knew that his journey had only just begun.
Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please comment 1. And if you didn't, just hit like. See you in the next videos.